If you strength trained diligently for 1 year, how much stronger would you get? We're going to answer that in today's video, so let's find out. What's up everyone, my name is Rosendo and welcome back to my channel, and we are back with another video, this time back with more lifting things, more strength progress. We're going to be taking a look at my progress in the year of 2025, more or less, and we're going to be comparing my first powerlifting meet performance to my second powerlifting meet performance to answer the question, how much stronger could you get after 1 year of consistent powerlifting training? How much weight would you add to your squat, bench, and deadlift, and how much weight would you add to your total? In this video, we're going to be talking about what happened after I trained for 1 year working with a powerlifting coach, how much stronger I got, and comparing my first powerlifting meet to my second powerlifting meet. Again, usual disclaimer, this video is just for educational purposes. I'm simply going to be talking about what I did and what happened. This is not a recommendation for you to do certain things, to train a certain way, to follow a certain program. No, is it a guarantee or a recommendation or even a suggestion or a guideline of how much stronger you may get after any certain period amount of training. Again, this video is just going to be talking about A, what my training split was from the time of January 13th to March 22nd of the year after, and B, how much stronger I got between my first powerlifting meet performance training by myself and my second powerlifting meet performance training with a coach. All right, so without further ado, let's get to it. If you guys saw my first video, my GZCL breakdown, I essentially talked about what my training looked like for my first year or so of powerlifting training, where I followed the GZCL method. I made a program for myself and kind of what happened in that time period. After that, I did my first powerlifting meet and I talked about the results in that video. And now this is the next phase of training where I like to share with you all how much stronger I got after 14 months of dedicated powerlifting training working with a powerlifting coach. Now, the first thing I would like to do is talk about what my training looked like, because the question is, okay, if I got this much stronger in a year, what did my training look like? Was I in and out of the gym for 30 minutes, 3 days a week? Was I in the gym for 4 hours? What was I doing that allowed me to get this much stronger? So let's talk about that. After my first meet, I took a break for about a month, and then I decided to start working with a powerlifting coach, where I started with the same coach from January 13th, 2025 to March 22nd, 2026. So we were looking at 14 months of dedicated, specific powerlifting training. The training consisted of 4 days a week with an emphasis on squat, bench, and deadlift split out over the 4 days. The general idea with powerlifting training, in this case at least, is you have 2 squat days, a primary squat day and a secondary squat day, 3 bench days, a primary bench day, a secondary bench day, and a tertiary bench day, and 2 deadlift days, a primary deadlift day and a secondary deadlift day. The general idea is on your primary days, you're going heavy on that lift, usually with a top set and a back down format, which would mean, let's say my top set is a triple of squats at a heavy weight, and then I do maybe a 3x5 back down or a 3x6 back down just to get the volume in. The secondary days in general are just volume with a variation of a lift, whether it's a pause squat, a pause deadlift, a tempo bench, a long pause bench, or whatever. And in bench's case, you have a tertiary day, which can add more variations, more volume, really whatever you need. Now, with that in mind, with the primary and secondary ideas established, and with the top set and back down ideas established, we're looking at 4 days of training. Monday, where you have your primary squat and your primary bench. Wednesdays, where you have your primary deadlift and a secondary bench. Fridays, where you have secondary squat, secondary deadlift, and Saturday, which is just tertiary bench. For all you powerlifters out there, notably there's no SBD day where you do squat, bench, and deadlift all in the same day. It didn't really work with my schedule. We could have fit it in there. We could have not fit it in there. Again, this is not saying what you should do. This is just saying what I did, what we did, and what happened. And when it comes to your accessory work, more or less, you have upper body accessories on one day, lower body on another. Sometimes there's kind of work mixed in there if you throw like an arm exercise on one of the other days or something like that. But in general, your accessories are split into different days, upper, lower, things like that. So again, this is what my training looked like. Primary days have a top set and their back downs, very specific to powerlifting training. Secondary days might have top sets and back downs, they might not, but it's the important part is that it's a variation of the lift. In my case, tertiary bench was not a variation, but it was just volume. We started with variations, we did some experimenting, and we ended up with just volume on the 3rd day, and now I'm changing my training again. But again, that's the general idea. Accessories on these days, and spending more or less on average 2.5 hours in the gym. Is it a long time? Sure. Do I know people who spend longer? Absolutely. But yes, it is a dedication to powerlifting. I'm not in and out of the gym in an hour. I do my warm-ups, I rest in between my sets plenty. I think it's a long time to be in the gym, but it's not too bad for a powerlifting average. Again, I'm not saying that's how long you should be spending in the gym or that's how long powerlifters should spend in the gym. I'm just saying this is what I did. This is the work that I put in, and this is what happened. All right, and finally, I do want to talk about my body weight changes. If you saw my GZCL breakdown, I mentioned that in that phase of training, I was on a pretty aggressive bulk. Here, I started off on a deficit, kind of went on a maintenance for a while, and then bulked up leading into my meet. So the big changes in the body weight are starting off January 13th, weighing in at 200.2 pounds, which is 90.7 kilos. Finishing off on March 22nd at 217.6 pounds, 98.7 kilos, for a 17.4 pound difference and 8 kilo difference. I think in my previous phase of training, it was probably closer to 25 or 32 pound difference. I can't remember. But again, this is what my training looked like in this period of time. Now let's talk about what happened as a result, where we get to compare my first meet performance to my most recent meet performance, my second meet performance. All right, starting with my first meet performance on December 14th, 2024, training by myself, running the GZCL method, which I actually already talked about in my video. If you saw my video, you already know how this meet went, but let's talk about the numbers because we are going to compare it to my second meet. So my first meet, my first ever powerlifting meet, I ended up with a squat of 170 kilos, 375 pounds, 102.5 kilos on the bench or 232 pounds, and 195 kilos on deadlift or 430 pounds. I actually didn't mention this in that video, but this was my second attempt to bench. I missed my third attempt due to up and down motion, basically strength as well. So I used 110 kilos in that video, but in that meet, I actually only hit 102.5 kilos or 232 pounds. So that brings us to a total of 467.5 kilos or 1,031 pounds at a body weight of 91.2. My weight class was 93 kilos. I weighed in at 91.2 or 201 pounds, giving us, for all you powerlifters, a DOT score of 300.3. If you're not a powerlifter, DOTS is basically just like a powerlifting strength score based on your body weight and your total. So giving us a 300 pound DOTS. And again, as I mentioned, rookie numbers. This was my first ever powerlifting meet. This was really only off 1 year of powerlifting training, which was just me following the GZCL method and kind of getting my SBD up while on a bulk. So this was my first meet. These are the results. All right, so let's compare that to my second meet performance, my most recent meet on March 22nd, 2026. This just happened. It was my first ever USAPL meet. I had a lot of fun. It was really well run. And let's talk about what I did on the day. Now, these are all third attempts. These are all 9 for 9. I went 27 for 27 in white lights. So starting off with squats where we have 190 kilos or 419 pounds, bench where we have 130 kilos or 287 pounds, and deadlift where we have 237.5 kilos or 524 pounds, giving us a total of 557.5 or 1,229 pounds at a body weight of 98.7 kilos or 218 pounds, with a DOT score of 345.12. So these are the results of my first two meets. So what is the difference? I'll probably give a little bit of context on each lift as well. Starting off with squats, where we added 20 kilos or 44 pounds to my squats. Squats are my weakest lift. I'm a taller lifter with longer femurs, so they fatigue me, they beat me up. Did we have more in the tank? Probably, but 190 kilos, that's all we took. But for a taller, poorly leveraged squatter, we added 20 kilos or 44 pounds on my squat. Moving on to bench, where we added 27.5 kilos or 61 pounds. Bigger increase than squat. As I mentioned, this was my second attempt, but it really only matters what you do on meet day. So we are going to consider the fact that we added 27.5 kilos or 61 pounds on bench, where we actually had a lot more in the tank. Bench technique is pretty volatile for me. I'm a pretty technical lifter, so there's just no clue what we had on the day. But this 130 kilos moved really, really well. I probably had a whole 10 more, at least, maybe realistically, a whole 10 more kilos in me. I could have hit 140, but again, it only matters what you did on meet day. And bench press definitely made a big improvement because, as I mentioned in my GZCL breakdown video, the bench guidelines are a little bit, they're not too specific for powerlifting. So starting to bench 3 times a week, incorporating your top sets and back downs and your variety definitely allowed me to get a lot more out of my bench versus when I was training on my own. But again, that's where the difference is on bench. And finally, we have deadlift, where we added 42.5 kilos or 94 pounds. Definitely the biggest improvement by far on that lift. A very, very big jump. I believe I mentioned that first video and I'll mention again. Right around the time my first meet came around, I was still pulling sumo, but I started to really outgrow it for my body weight. I was pushing about 195 pounds and sumo just did not really feel all that good anymore. And I kind of stuck with it leading into my meet because it was too close to make any changes. After that, we switched to conventional. Not only did we switch to conventional, but we actually programmed it and periodized it properly, top set, back downs, all that stuff. And you can see just how well it worked with a whole 42.5 kilos or 94 pounds. And all of that gives us an increased total by 90 kilos or 198 pounds added to my total. All of that adding 7.5 kilos or 17 pounds to my body weight, giving us an increase in DOTS of 44.82. And there you go. That is how much stronger I got between my first powerlifting meet and my second powerlifting meet. after 14 months or more or less a year of powerlifting training. The biggest thing I want to emphasize is A, all the disclaimers I made, but B, these are just kind of due to changes in my program that really emphasize powerlifting as the core of it. I mentioned that in my first video, but all of this progress was really made about by prioritizing powerlifting, by working with a coach that made a program that was with the intention of putting numbers on my squat, bench, and deadlift. Top sets, back downs, all that stuff. That is where these numbers really come from. My body weight only went up 17 pounds, but I was able to add all this on my lifts. Dot score went up. But this is more or less what happens when you really start prioritizing powerlifting. But again, huge disclaimers, because not only A, is this my second ever powerlifting meet, I'm still pretty new to the sport, but B, you can see the numbers and they kind of speak for themselves. 1229 total is good, but it's not really anything great for powerlifting. I believe the 1,000 pound club puts you in probably the 16th percentile of powerlifters, maybe lower for people my body weight. 1229 is probably a little bit more respectable, but again, it's still amateur. So all of these numbers were made because A, it was only my second meet, but B, I'm still new to the sport. I still have a lot of room to improve. And obviously these improvements won't, I won't be this much stronger every single time. I won't always add 90 kilos to my meet every single time. But again, this might give you an idea of what it looks like for someone of my level, putting in my amount of time and effort into powerlifting and what might happen in this time period. And there you go. That is about it. That is how much stronger I got after about a year powerlifting training. And that is all we have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Let me know how you guys did in your first meet compared to your second meet, how long you guys have been training for, what improvements you guys make in a similar amount of time. And let me know if you have any questions about my training or if you have anything else you'd like to contribute to the video in the comments. If you have any other thoughts or anything else you'd like to discuss, make sure to leave it down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But other than that, that is all I have for you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.